So, something interesting happened. It was on May 19th, and after volunteering at my local animal rescue center, by the way, this cat's name is Rocky, say hi. Aww. I got home, started scoring on TED Talk, as any chronically online Gen Zer would do, and got caught up on a Matt Healy and Taylor Swift situation that's been getting talked about for some days now.
The thing that really gets me about the Matt Healy situation, in addition to Youngblood calls out Matt Healy in the Adam Friedland show.
I'm gonna be a party member in the discourse and say that I don't expect anything from Taylor Swift.
Ice Spice, you know who that is? Nick doesn't know who it
She
is.
listens to alternative music. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't expect that. Yeah.
So I've been watching a discourse amongst the Swifties regarding Taylor dating.
I can excuse racism, but I draw the line in animal cruelty.
You want more, I'll give you more.
I don't give a fuck about Taylor Swift is dating. This is her first racist boyfriend that you know of.
And something clicked in my mind where instead of asking,
Man, what did he do to make them niggas that mad?
I started thinking to myself, man, what's he doing that's making me that mad? Cause I was pissed, infuriated, exasperated, and downright angry. And in a brief moment of clarity, I had to ask myself, how could Taylor talk about woman supporting woman, but then date someone who said all this disgusting shit about black women? I mean, does all that talk just go out the window once a black woman's being harassed? Then it clicked for me. I was pissed, infuriated, exasperated, and downright angry because Taylor Swift was engaging in this specific kind of feminism called white feminism. And as I started to do more research and think about this more, I realized that there's more to it than just this specific situation when it comes to Taylor. And there's an entire history of this specific brand of feminism that she's continuing that more people need to know about. So I wrote a script, filmed and edited it, hopped on the screen, and here we are now, with a video called Taylor Swift and White Feminism, where I'll be mansplaining how Taylor Swift engages in white feminism to my majority male audience. Wait, what? And here we are now with the video called Taylor Swift and White Feminism, where I'll be discussing this specific brand of feminism that Taylor Swift engages in, the history behind it, why it's harmful, and what we as a community can do about it. So all that and more will be in this video starting now. Now. Okay.
Nigga, like,
Hi, I'm Thinkpiece Tribe, and you guys are the tribe that views my think pieces. And it's been a hot minute since the last video. Like, my locks have gotten longer. I got over 16K subs. I had a mental health breakdown about my circumstances and career choices once I graduate college. You know, typical stuff. Typical stuff. To the IRS, if you see this shirt, just know that it's a joke. I haven't committed tax fraud, and I pay my taxes. Also, to all the people who are going to call me zesty for putting lock jewelry in my hair, just know that I have a very low tier god type erotica story about how I had sex with your mother last night. You know, I feel like the best way to describe me is if you put the overthinking brain of Charlie Brown and the charisma of JPEG Mafia into a 5'4" black man. Like, I don't have the exaggerated swagger of a black teen, but I do have the exaggerated swagger of someone who explains to everyone that he knows that Tame Impala is just one person. And with this exaggerated swagger, we'll be looking over how Taylor Swift engages in white feminism. But first, some context, because I do recognize that everyone isn't as chronically online as me, and most people aren't caught up on the Taylor Swift lore. Like, they heard 1989 when it came out in 2014, saw her Reputation era in 2017, and then completely lost the plot after that. Like, I tried to explain to my grandpa what a Taylor's version and a Swiftie is, and he looked at me like I had taken multiple hits of crack cocaine before I told him this. And to all the possible Swifties watching this video, this isn't a hit piece or a cancel Taylor Swift video essay. Nah, this is me using what's been going on with Taylor Swift to discuss white feminism, because there were some interesting things that have happened and are currently happening with this that I wanted to talk about. But anyways, let's really get into it, because ooh, I'm about to go in. And I need to relocate to a new location before I drop this video, because if Taylor stans find this video, they will coordinate a con intel prototype investigation on Twitter and dox my personal information to a white supremacist on 4chan. Nah, but for real, Matty Healy is the lead singer for a band called The 1975. Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift, and apparently they're dating each other. Now, the reason why a good amount of people have a problem with it is because Maddie Healy continues to do bigoted and extremely problematic things, while Taylor won't speak up about it and will continue to date him throughout it all. And let me explain. This man has a repeated history of engaging in anti-Semitic behavior, from doing a Nazi salute during one of his tours, which was just unnecessary as hell, because if you wanted to get a message across that Kanye and Trump are Nazis, you can do it without doing that specific salute, I promise you. He's posted tweets like this about Muslim girls and screenshots like this, which is a reference to the records of Jewish people that Nazis kept during the Holocaust. Like, I could keep going, list out all this man's bigoted actions, and this video could be over an hour long. But another main thing I want to focus on is how Maddie Healy views and treats women, more specifically, black women. During a podcast episode from the Adam Freeland show, Maddie just went completely mask off into the most racist rants I've seen in a minute, where he completely disrespected Ice Spice and proceeded to mock Chinese accents, Hawaii accents, and Japanese accents alongside the people he did the podcast with.
Ice Spice, you know who that is?
Nick doesn't know who it is.
She's like
one of the Spice Girls.
Yes, that's
she's
right.
like this rapper.
She's the rapper
that
from
has
the Spice
one-
Girls.
Inuit Spice Girl. Just this chubby Chinese lady. Yeah, I rap her music. Do they talk like that? Do Inuits talk like that?
They don't talk with a Chinese
They
accent.
talk like a more Hawaiian style.
Yeah, more Hawaiian.
yeah.
Welcome to Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah. Locals only.
Locals only.
Coconut.
Yeah, that's what Ice Spice is like.
She's a very attractive woman
Yeah.
that released one song, and basically
So you
everyone's
slide in your DMs, you're like,
Yeah.
so what are you, a fucking Eskimo or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, that's what I was like. You fucking dumb.
Yeah. Anyways,
And let me be clear. Just because Taylor Swift and Ice Spice are collabing on a song together doesn't mean that Maddie's actions and Taylor's non-action when it comes to standing up for Ice Spice and dating the same man who said all those things about her are excused. Now mind you, that podcast episode was so racist that even Apple and Spotify had to remove it from their platforms. But it doesn't stop there. He has said multiple misogynistic statements about women, including Taylor herself, when he said that dating Taylor would be a demasculating thing. And to top it all off, he's admitted to jerking off to hardcore porn where black women are getting humiliated and degraded. And he allegedly used the N-word to describe Beyonce, which, considering all the racism, sexism, and bigotry that this man takes part in, is more believable than aliens being kept in Area 51. Like, this is truly a despicable man, and I'm praying on his downfall, alongside Matt Walsh, Tim Pool, and Aurelius Maximus for saying that I love that little Tekka. And the reason why Taylor is getting looked at as a hypocrite in this situation is because she's dating a man who said all this heinous shit about marginalized communities, POC women, and black women, and hasn't said a word. Like, she's been completely and utterly silent throughout it all. And her unwillingness to speak up once POC women and black women are being harassed, the way that she seemingly dumped everything she's ever stood for to be with this mid-white man pushing 40 years old, just says the quiet part out loud about white feminism that I cannot stand.
Performing the quiet part out loud. Like, it's one of those instances of silence. The silence is deafening type of thing, where Taylor, and I think, so I think what Taylor practices is probably more accurately described as CEO feminism or corporate feminism. There's a couple of different variation terms in it. It is a branch of white feminism, let's say, that comes out of the 70s and 80s movements to get white women work, right? And black women and Latina women and indigenous women were forced to work for white women. And when it came to that context, the replacement for reproductive labor at the home, so the white women could go and do labor within a corporate context, within a rich, privileged context. So Taylor's actions, I would argue, as a near billionaire, show someone who above pretty much anything, and I would say her second priority is that whiteness. And a lot of her professional identity is definitely based on traditional ideas of white womanhood. There's a bit of playing to subversiveness, but it's very controlled. It's very limited in its scope. So she'll push against things, but only when it benefits her, and only when it's going to give her good press. So the Nat situation, I think really demonstrates where her priorities lie. Because in the end, if you are built around maintaining the hierarchical structures, you will defend a lot of horrid shit if it doesn't benefit you to say anything about it.
Because she has no problem speaking up about feminism, especially when it pertains to her. She's done it multiple times in the past, and I think that her actions are speaking louder than her words. Because what she's doing now is declaring that I do not care about advocating for all women. I do not care about advocating for all. I only care about advocating for other white women and myself, which is very on brand with this offshoot type of feminism that she's perpetuating. You know, it's that type of performative activism where you really don't care about what you're saying. It's that type of performative activism where you're saying something radical for public points and to distance yourself from your racist fans. It's that type of performative activism where you can say all these things about women supporting women, your fans say that you're in your activism era, and then all of a sudden you proceed to dump it because you never cared about equality or supporting all women in the first place. Speaking of...
Like, where's the bathroom? Oh, it's just down the hall and around the corner. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Hey, babe, sorry to bother. Do you see there's some black bitch in our house? Oh my god, Matt. Oh, I'm sorry, babe. Bitch of color. There's some bitch of color wandering around our house. That's just Ice Spice. We're making a song together. Oh, sorry, babe. Didn't even know. Warn me next time.
Let's define white feminism and really delve deep into the specific kind of feminism that Taylor Swift partakes in.
Rafia Zakaria's book Against White Feminism states, white feminists are someone who refuses to consider the role that whiteness and the racial privilege attached to it have played and continue to play in universalizing white feminist concerns, agendas, and beliefs as being those of all feminism and all feminists.
It's basically a subsection of feminism that lacks an understanding of intersectionality when it comes to how race, gender, and class intersect with each other. For example, I am a cishet black man making a video essay about white feminism. Trust me, I recognize the optics of this entire situation. And because I can recognize intersectionality as a thing that exists in the real world, I know that I will never know what it's like to navigate the world as a woman, let alone a black woman at that, which allows me to recognize the privilege that I have as a man and not speak over or overstep when discussing about feminism. I can also recognize how white tears are used against black men to fuel white supremacy and inequality against African Americans in general. However, when it comes to people like Taylor Swift, they don't apply this to their everyday lives. And in Taylor's case, it creates this narrow view on feminism that I like to call white feminism, Taylor's version. Because as hood feminism on Mickey Kendall states,
instead of a framework that focuses on helping women get basic needs met, all too often the focus is not on survival but on increasing privilege. For a movement that is meant to represent all women, it often centers those who already have most of their needs met.
And as many black women and women of color have pointed out, this type of feminism does nothing but reaffirm the status quo. It doesn't create any change or equality for all women. As White Tears / Brown Scars by Ruby Ahmad states,
brown and black women, I wrote, are deeply impacted, often without realizing it, by the grind of living in a society that does not recognize, let alone reward, their value. Overwhelmingly disbelieved when they try to shed light on their experiences of gendered racism, the lack of support they receive adds to the initial trauma, leaving them questioning reality as well as themselves.
Like, how do you think that makes POC women and black women feel? You speak up when Jenny in Georgia makes a joke about you in that Netflix show, but not when your boyfriend makes all these disrespectful comments towards Ice Spice and admits that he watches racist torture porn? This shit is truly ridiculous and wild to say the least, but it isn't a new phenomenon. We can look at other artists in the music industry like Lana Del Rey. When people were criticizing her music a couple of years ago, and she came on the internet talking about some question for the culture. Like, based on that opening alone, you knew that this wasn't going to be a good look for her. Then she went on to imply that she faces more criticism than Doja Cat, Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, Camila, Kalani, and Cardi B and straight up ignored all the discrimination and racism that they faced when making their art. Mind you, when Beyonce performed at the Super Bowl, people came to protest against it because she paid homage to the Black Panther Party and brought awareness to the Black Lives Matter movement. Mind you, when Nicki Minaj was upset about not being nominated for Video of the Year at the MTV Video Music Awards during 2015 for Anaconda, which was a huge hit video and song during the time, and went on Twitter to explain her frustrations, it was Taylor that thought Nicki was personally attacking her, when in reality, Nicki was expressing her anger about the snubs and slights that she faces as a black woman in the music industry. Like, we talking about the same MTV that was notorious for not playing black artists, which they only stopped doing because Michael Jackson came around, dropped Thriller, and his greatness couldn't be denied.
But there seem to be a lot of black artists making very good videos that I'm surprised aren't used on MTV.
Well, of course, also we have to try and do what we think not only New York and Los Angeles will appreciate, but also Poughkeepsie or Midwest. Pick some town in the Midwest that will be scared to death by Prince, which we're playing, or a string of other black faces.
That's
and black
very
music.
Interesting. Isn't that interesting?
You know, we have to play the music that we think an entire country is going to like, and certainly we're a rock and roll station now. The question would be asked, well, should, since we're in New York, should PLJ play, the Isley Brothers? Well, you and I might say yeah, because we have grown up in an era when the Isley Brothers mean something to me, and so do the Spinners, even way after the Isley Brothers. But what does it mean to a 17-year-old? Well, if you talk on the phones to these guys like I did when I was in radio, it's
Well,
scary.
I tell you what it means. I tell you what maybe the Isley Brothers or Marvin Gaye means to a black 17-year-old.
Ah.
And surely he's part of America as well.
No
isn't
question, no question.
So do you really think that she's talking about you and not what she's had to go through as a black woman in this specific industry? And sure, Taylor apologized and they made up. But her true colors have already been shown, and she couldn't even recognize that a black woman was facing discrimination and getting slighted, and thought that Nicki was somehow attacking her even though her name wasn't even mentioned whatsoever. Again, it's that specific brand of white feminism where no intersectionality is being applied, and white women speak over and think that they're being personally attacked by black women. Also, to just finish my point about Lana Del Rey, she actually doubled down and said that there are certain women that culture doesn't want to have a voice. It may not have to do with race. I don't know what it has to do with, which is just... Look, man, I don't know. You can definitely watch Tina Noir or D'Angelo Wallace and their videos about it because they give some great insight on this, but it really does speak to this lack of understanding and purposeful leaving out / attack on POC and black women that isn't new to white feminism at all. For example, we can take a look at the women's suffrage movement and see these exact same things play out in real time. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, being the main faces during the women's suffrage movement, had this to say about black men getting the right to vote before white women.
We are moral, virtuous, and intelligent. And yet by your laws we are classes with idiots, lunatics, and Negroes. I will cut off this right arm of mine before I will ever work for or demand a ballot for the Negro and not the woman.
And as Angela Davis stated in her book, Woman, Race, and Class,
whether the criticism of the 14th and 15th Amendments expressed by the leaders of the women's rights movement was justifiable or not is still being debated. But one thing seems clear. Their defense of their own interests as white middle-class women in a frequently egotistical and elitist fashion exposed the tenuous and superficial nature of their relationships to the post-war campaign for black equality. Granted, the two amendments excluded women from the new process of enfranchisement and were thus interpreted by them as detrimental to their political aims. Granted, they felt they had as powerful a case for the suffrage as black men, yet in articulating their opposition with arguments invoking the privilege of white supremacy, they reveal how defenseless they remained, even after years of involvement in progressive causes to the pernicious ideological influences of racism.
It gets even worse when you learn that during the 1913 suffrage parade, the organizers of that event told black women to march at the back of the line, even though it was black women like Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells, and the founders of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated putting their lives on the line as black women in an early 1900s America to fight for freedom for all women. My mom was a Delta, and she made sure I didn't leave this information out, because a lot of people don't know about this, and it's really unfortunate because it's always been black women at the front lines of damn near every single movement in this country fighting for our rights. It was black women that made up a majority of members in the Black Panther Party by the early 70s. It was black women creating the original Million Woman March back in 1997. It was Paulette Barnes, Diane Williams, Sandra Bundy, and Michelle Vinson, all black women, that shaped the sexual harassment laws that we have now. It was Tarana Burke, a black woman, who created the Me Too movement back in 2006 to empower women of color who have been sexually abused by men. But when Time magazine put out a cover talking about the Me Too movement back in 2017, they put Taylor and other white women on the cover instead of Tarana, when she literally created the Me Too movement. And yes, I recognize that she and those other women were put on that cover because they spoke out against their abusers and the sexual assault that they had been through. But why wasn't the creator of the Me Too movement on the cover with them? That's all I'm saying. We can even hop over to queer history during the Stonewall uprisings and see that it was Marsha P. Johnson, a black trans woman, being a prominent figure in the gay rights movements during the 1960s and 1970s.
A lot of, and again when I say white feminist, I mean capital W, ideological white feminist. The reason I keep making that specification is it's not just women that do white feminism, it's not even just white women that do it, unfortunately. It is mostly white women that do it, but there's a lot of white men that engage in it too. There's the occasional people that engage in it, because like with all political ideologies, there's exceptions that kind of prove the rule. It's a feminism that is about the aesthetic of pushing against things. So Taylor, in a public context, will do things that play to an aesthetic because that's her brand, and she's trying to sell a brand, and she's trying to win at capitalism. Like I said earlier, you can't dismantle patriarchy without dismantling white supremacy, but you also can't coherently dismantle either of those two systems without dismantling capitalism and its relationship with them. All of those hierarchical systems are layered and built on each other in complicated ways. You can't remove one of them and get the full context, because you need to have an intersectional engagement. So yeah, I would say that Taylor isn't defending Matt. She's very purposely just not commenting. But it's really telling when she comments on something and when she doesn't. Critics are going after her. It's time to pull out the feminism. Her partner does egregiously sexist things. Crickets. I wonder why.
It's the same sad tale of black women being the blueprint and fighting for everyone else, while white women reap the benefits of their actions and no one else fights for black women in return. So when I see Taylor continuing this brand of feminism through her actions and unwillingness to speak up when black women are being harassed, it doesn't surprise me, because there's a deep history of white women engaging in this type of behavior, and it goes far back than Taylor Swift. Now, something I need y'all to understand is that I'm not saying that all white women who are feminists are bad people. Far from it. What I am saying is that this brand of white feminism is deeply rooted in racism and white supremacy, which creates this false sense of woman supporting woman rhetoric that only supports and advocates for white women. And we're seeing Taylor perpetuate this in real time. It also creates this wall where people claim that you're trying to create infighting amongst women by calling out how black women and POC women have been historically and currently excluded from mainstream feminist movements, and how once white women get their rights, won't step for other women who are minorities in this country. and will leave them to figure shit out for themselves. Because as hood feminism states,
whether it is the centering of white women even when women of color are most likely to be at risk, or the complete erasure of issues most likely to impact those who are not white, white feminism tends to forget that a movement that claims to be for all women has to engage with the obstacles women who are not white faced.
Which is another thing I wanted to talk about, which is the aesthetics of performative activism when it comes to white feminism, which is in the next part of this video that will be introduced through a very expensive and time-consuming VFX transition. But seriously, when we talk about the aesthetics of performative activism, we can analyze how Taylor has used this in her career over the years, because this isn't new to her. Some examples of this sort of allyship where you treat social justice as a trend to dump off later down the line because you never really cared about it in the first place has been seen many times across various social media platforms. But the one that pissed me off the most was that hashtag Blackout Tuesday shit, where people posted black squares on Instagram after the murder of George Floyd in 2020. To everyone who did that BS back then, trust me, I know who you are, and you will pay for your actions. Well, in this case, non-action, because the fuck? You know, it's this thing where people go on the internet and claim to support black people, queer people, and other marginalized communities, but a few months down the line, you look back and ooh, it's nothing but silence from their end. Like, I'm sorry, what happened to all them infographics you was posting on your Instagram story? What happened to your allyship? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean when I talk about the aesthetics of it all. Cause it's all a front to claim that you really do care about others and how what you say affects others around you, but in reality, you don't give a fuck about none of that! We've seen this with Taylor plenty of times, when during 2019, she finally spoke up for LGBTQ+ people after being silent about the issues pertaining to that community for years, while having a large queer fan base. And while I can acknowledge that this is a good thing, and she also put her money where her mouth is, her fans call this... Y'all don't believe this. Her fans call this her activism era. And off that statement alone, you can tell that it all goes downhill from here. Because during last year, we saw that she tops the list of celebrities with the highest private jet carbon emissions. And yes, I do recognize that we can't put all the climate responsibility on individuals, when in reality, it's major corporations spilling oil into the Gulf of Mexico and funding the Willow Project. Like, I get it, but god damn, flying 170 times between January 1st and July 19th and totaling up to 8,293 tons of carbon dioxide is absurd. Like come on now. Then you gotta keep in mind, she wasn't even on tour at the time. And people argue against this by saying that, oh, she loaned the jet out to other people. But it doesn't make it any better, it just makes her a sky landlord. Also, we've seen reports recently come out that Taylor could reach billionaire status by the end of the Eras tour. And before y'all start typing away in the comments, I need you to understand. No, hold on. I'm pulling up the megaphone for this one. Hold on. It's right back here, behind the camera. Hold on now. I gotta pull this off for this one. She did not earn all that money by herself. You cannot earn $1 billion without exploiting the labor of other people. Please understand this. And don't think that I'm just antagonizing Taylor for this, because trust me, I've been very critical of Jay-Z and other billionaires like him in the past. I got put on Hassan's channel for this. And if you don't believe me, roll the clip.
Alright, let's see what this take is.
It's the perfect example of the problem with displaying yourself as a revolutionary and liberator type of figure, but you don't read any books, you don't engage in any theory whatsoever, and you don't know what you're... Yeah, you see me right there? You see me? Yo, come on, nigga. Yeah. Okay, anyways, back to what I was saying. This ties into white feminism because, again, it's that common theme of an unwillingness to speak up once other communities of people are being targeted, and an unwillingness to dismantle other structures and systems that aren't particularly affecting you immediately. Meanwhile, Beyonce is on tour and has queer performers performing with her on stage. Meanwhile, Lizzo is being very vocal on tour about the anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ+ legislation that's being passed in this country. Again, we're seeing the same things play out from long ago and currently, where black women are putting themselves in the front lines for other communities of people, while white women sit on the sidelines and stay silent. Because when I see shit like this, I know you never cared about what you were talking about in the first place, and you spoke up for points instead of actually caring about the communities of people that you were speaking out for. Then it doesn't help when her fans enable her and let shit like this fly because their favorite artist can never be criticized.
I think one of the most common tactics of these types of let's call them privileged politics, because it's not exclusive to the world of feminism, where people will go, oh, you're creating division. If you bring up racism, if you bring up sexism, bring up ableism, saneism, etc. You see this in leftist spaces quite frequently. We've seen it recently with friends of ours and certain people's responses to their work. But they'll do this thing where they'll say, oh, the person bringing up the problem is the problem. You are the issue with the situation because you're causing division. You can't focus on the real problems, the larger problems. You can't see the big picture. And I know you brought up a really good quote in the essay about this, but and I wish I could remember the exact one, but actually no, talking about a problem doesn't make it so you cannot engage with fighting another issue. And what frustrates me is that often this demonstrates a prioritization of which issues are real and which ones they don't perceive as particularly a problem. It's usually pretty telling. It's often white people saying that racism isn't really a problem that we need to address right now. We have this other thing that we need to deal with. Or it's able people saying, oh, but we've got this bigger problem, so why should we have to deal with that in these intersectional spaces, let's say. And I think when that starts happening, it's a way for them to drive a wedge, and it makes people look at the person bringing up these issues of intersectionality as the source of the problem, rather than the person that's bringing their attention to the problem.
You know, that's the one thing that Taylor fans and Kanye fans have alike, is that they will somehow, some way defend their favorite artist no matter what they say or do. It's some of the most elite level, generational dick riding that I haven't seen since Chris Brown fans, for real. So yeah, I know you're probably thinking, what can we do about this? And what are the solutions to these issues of white feminism, performative activism, and such? Well, my friend, as I wrap up this video, I'll give you some insight into the answers to these questions and more once we're back from the break.
Hi, this is Noah Sampson here. Oh, fuck. Okay. This is why we do essays, because we don't remember. We gotta do a lot of takes. Hi, this is Noah Sampson here, letting you know you gotta subscribe to the Thinkpiece Tribe Patreon page. Do it. I'm gonna be very upset with you. Come to your house and who knows, you know? Knock on your door a bunch and then run. Alright. Thanks.
Now go ahead and send me money, yeah! Money, cash.
Bro, they need to put cocaine back in fucking Coca-Cola cans. And hear me out.
Fuck Waffle House and GA State, Chick-fil-A, UPS, and JP Chase. We have to stand together and fight for our people, and we can't let them forget. Rest in peace to Tortuguita.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
So out of everything that we've discussed today, I do not want y'all to only take away that Taylor Swift is a bad person and then nothing else that I've been saying. Because best believe that's not what this video was about. It was analyzing Taylor's actions as of late and explaining the harmful nature of white feminism through those said actions. Because the goal here isn't me begging and pleading Taylor Swift to change her ways so that I can stream evermore in peace. I mean, honestly, I hope that she does do that. But the odds that it won't happen, her fans still supporting her regardless, her baking some more Biden cookies during the next election cycle, and everyone forgetting about her non-action when it comes to standing up for women of color, will she get called an activist again, are high. I just wanted to bring awareness to this issue, give y'all the resources and how we can go about fixing these issues. Because as Hood Feminism states,
my feminism doesn't center on those who are comfortable with the status quo, because ultimately the road can never lead to equity for girls like me. What I do have is a deep desire to move the conversation about solidarity and the feminist movement in a direction that recognizes that an intersectional approach to feminism is key to improving relationships between communities of women, so that some measure of true solidarity can happen.
I just want more people to be aware of their actions when it comes to social justice and actually applying intersectionality into their daily lives, because these systems that were created against marginalized communities made race, gender, and class matter. So it will be straight up ignorant to act like those things don't matter, don't intersect with each other, and don't exist in the real world. Because as Bell Hooks stated in Feminist Theory from Margin to Center,
feminism must center the needs of Black women and others who are most oppressed by society and culture. We must commit to finding solutions for people of all genders. Our movement must reject the fear-based scarcity mindset of white supremacy that tries to fool us into seeing a limited number of seats at the table, that tries to divide us with the lie that we must choose our battles.
You know, when you talk about the wage gap between men and women, don't forget or leave out the fact that Black women and POC women get paid even less than white women. When we discuss feminist movements that brought change and equality to all, do not leave out the Black women that created or were front and center at these movements. Don't call on and wait on Black people like the goddamn Avengers to stand up against certain issues because you won't do it yourself. Read or listen to books by Black women and POC women about this topic, because I use many in this video that you can check out in the Google document in the description down below, from Ruby Hamad, Mickey Kendall, Angela Davis, and Bell Hooks, because they've done the most work on this topic and give excellent insight on intersectional feminism and how we need to dismantle other systems like the patriarchy, racism, colorism, capitalism, and neoliberalism while centering Black and POC voices. So all the men watching, we need to recognize when to sit down, shut the fuck up, and use our privilege as men to center women's voices when no one will let them be heard, and actually let them speak. And you know what? I'm not stopping there. I'm actually going to take the time to shout out my favorite Black/POC women and MB creators on YouTube and TikTok. So green screen me, nigga, let's keep this shit going. Okay, so up first we got Bellamy Ray, a Black and non-binary trans creator who has videos out about gender and colonization that you need to watch. At 2 we got Soul Bunny, a Black queer leftist who makes videos about transphobia and trans misogyny, white queers, and the white leftist industrial complex. And definitely watch the latest video that they just dropped, because they said a lot about what I've been wanting to say about them niggas for a while now, so go watch that for sure. 3, arguably Samaya, who makes political videos on TikTok where she uses a leftist analysis to talk about the real life issues that are going on in our society. 4. Crutches and Spice, a black disabled creator on TikTok where she makes political videos educating her audience on certain things that she sees from her lens as a black disabled person. 5. Lene Vinay, aka Parking Lot Pimpin', where she keeps it black but keeps it brief and talks about black stories and issues surrounding our community and the world itself. 6. Ollie Sunvia, a Chinese-Canadian video essayist who makes videos like the self-fetishization of East Asia, existentialism, and how the Asian minority perpetuates anti-blackness. And please watch that video once you get the chance to do so. 7. Aisha Ray, a Filipino-American who makes the funniest videos. Like this video had me crying, laughing on the floor when I saw it for the first time. 8. Harriana Hook, who makes commentary pieces where she talks about TV, film, and animation. 9. Dara Star Tucker. She makes commentary pieces on TikTok that talks about the history of various artists, songwriters, musicians, TV shows, and films. And last but not least, White Male Ego in a Blunt. Now, she be spitting on TikTok, and she might be the next Shakespeare of this generation. Because as she said in the video explaining her username,
my username is supposed to say White Male Ego and a Blunt, and basically it just means if I had the ego of a white male and a blunt simultaneously, I would be unstoppable.
Like, you cannot tell me that she isn't this generation's next Maya Angelou. Like, come on now. So check out those creators, subscribe to them, follow them, sub to their Patreons, give them money because they deserve it for the sauce that they be dropping. And just take note, keep what I've been saying in the back of your minds and apply intersectional feminism to your everyday lives. Because if you truly want to fix the problems that arise from white feminism and performative activism and such, then class consciousness and centering voices that are being purposely left out is how we can go about doing so. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. So stay safe out here, read a book that's been banned in Florida, and have a nice day.
Shout out Robin Whetstone.
Summon Swap.
Kaylee's.
Jambo.
Franco Adaro.
Quiet 269.
Dante Bishop.
John.
Ledlock.
Katie Boduin.
Sean Furian.
Gavin K.
Bert Jerome.
Zoe.
Kid Kingpin.
Ari.
Sade Alaka.
Alejandro Espino.
And FD Signifier.
Yes, Lord.
You have to call it.
I got to call him.
Call your parent. Okay, thank you.